On Your Side, investigators are on the trail of a possible serial killer. A search for new clues in the unsolved murders of 5 teenage girls. These killings along the Oregon coast date back a quarter of a century. And On Your Side investigator Tom Jensen teamed up with police detectives and prosecutors looking for a killer.
Detectives already started getting fresh information, and in a few minutes, we'll give you a number to call with tips. The time gone by, 25 years in the first case, may actually help homicide detectives. They're hoping people who know something about these murders will be brave enough to come forward now and tell them who the killer is. They all have one thing in common. Young girls walking alone or in pairs along a coastal highway who vanish.
I'll break down and bawl like a baby at times. Just thinking about it, I still do.
Floyd Esson lost his youngest daughter, Jennifer. Jennifer Esson was just 15 when she disappeared along Highway 101 near Moolac State Beach, north of Newport.
They took my little girl from me, and to me, that's a wound that will never heal.
Esson isn't sure who they is, and neither are detectives from the Oregon State Police Major Crimes Unit and Lincoln County Sheriff's Department.
1443.
We went with them looking at a 14-year-old crime scene up an old logging road northeast of Moolac Beach.
Where are we at? About 50 yards. About 50 yards. Here's the spur road. It's going to come around and kind of hook in below us. The landing is over there then. Right.
Where the body of Jennifer Esson was found 2 weeks after her disappearance, lying right next to her friend, 16-year-old Leas. Both strangled.
They were covered with brush. There were sticks and branches and things over top of them.
Crime scene photos, never before seen publicly, show one of the first clues, a girl's shoe.
So it's going to be right in here. Yep.
And aerials of the spot where the girls were killed or later left under all that brush in a new clear cut.
So they were found in there. But quite a number of yards in there, but this is all obviously 14 years of growth.
Now Lincoln County District Attorney Rob Bovette is taking a fresh look at the double murder along with 3 other homicides, which all could be linked by a common killer or killers.
That's why I had all 5 homicides reopened at the same time, because of the potential for a connection.
3 years before the Esson Leas murders, in May 1992, 2 other girls vanished. Also along Highway 101 north of Newport. The girls were last seen making a call from this phone booth while their families camped at Beverly Beach State Park. Hunters found the bodies of 17-year-old Melissa Sanders and 19-year-old Sheila Swanson off of Highway 20 4 months later in October 1992. It was just a few miles from where another girl disappeared 8 years earlier. 17-year-old Kelly Disney, last seen walking east along Highway 20 at 1 in the morning in March 1984. Her mother talked to KATU in 1994, 10 years after her disappearance.
You can't describe it, especially not knowing.
And just days after our story aired, someone found Kelly Disney's skull near this reservoir north of Newport. 10 years after she disappeared, the first clue for investigators and her family. After a decade.
Now I know, and now I can get on with our lives.
This team of murder detectives hopes the killer or killers or someone who knows who they are will finally step forward and give all of the family some answers.
I'm hopeful that time will actually be our friend in this case, that relationships have changed, that people have grown older. For many folks around here, though, however, it's still pretty fresh, and it can be pretty painful.
Another murder farther north has us asking questions about police reports hidden until now.
I mean, it killed her family. I mean, she's gone, and, you know, the rest of her family's gone now, too.
Nothing was ever found.
A teenage girl disappears from a small town on the Oregon coast. 25 years later, a search for new clues, and the On Your Side investigators have new information which could help catch her killer. This is the epitome of a cold case, a case dormant for the better part of a quarter of a century. On Your Side investigator Tom Jensen decided to take another look and uncovered police reports kept secret until now.
A high schooler named Joan Hall. She vanished in late 1983 near Astoria. With no physical evidence, we were forced to retrace the tracks of the initial investigators. What we found in separate police reports really started us asking questions. The mystery still haunts people in and around Astoria.
There's something weird.
25 years after a girl disappears.
I still wonder to this day whatever happened to her.
On September 30th, 1983, Debbie Walker ate lunch with her friend Joan Hall at Warrenton High School.
I can still see her face, you know, like yesterday.
But it was the last time she saw Joan alive. Since that day, not a fiber of evidence. No body, no clothes, nothing. We wondered if there could be clues in these 25-year-old police reports. Documents kept private for a quarter of a century, obtained now only by KATU. According to this report taken by Warrenton Police 5 days after Joan's disappearance, a classmate named Mike K. Moore said at about 2 o'clock he saw her walking and took her to the mini-mart. Moore said it was the last time he saw Joan Hall. Joan was supposed to go to Warrenton Grade School, where she worked in her aunt's classroom, but she never showed up.
The reopening of those cases.
Clatsop County's district attorney says someone out there knows what happened.
We're hoping that every time someone talks about the Joanie Hall case, there will be people that will remember and maybe somebody that will come forward.
In those police reports, possible clues. 3 Warrenton classmates, Mike Bash, Gary Lear, and Jim Sears, told police between 4 and 4:30 that day at Sears' house, Mike Moore pulled up with a young female in the vehicle who he identified as Joan. But in another report, a Clatsop County Sheriff's deputy says all 3 teens, Lear, Sears, and Bash, changed their statements. It was someone else in the car with Moore, they said, not Joan Hall. The reporting deputy was Mike Bash's father, Gerald M. Bash.
The way the investigators work now is a lot more sophisticated.
A Clatsop County detective now investigating Joan Hall's disappearance says Mike Moore refuses to talk to investigators. He also wouldn't talk to me. And Moore's former friends, Jim Sears and Gary Lear, told me they don't remember anything about that day. We could not find Mike Bash, who moved to California just days after Joan Hall's disappearance. Gerald Bash says he hasn't seen his son for almost 20 years. And he says looking back at it, it was not appropriate for him to interview his own son about Joan Hall's disappearance. None of these men has ever been called a suspect in the case or even a person of interest. On Your Side investigator, Tom Jensen, KATU News.
Interesting stuff from Tom. If you have a story for Tom or any of our On Your Side investigators, we would love to hear from you. Email us at investigators@katu.com.